That's right, it is Free Talk Live, and you are free to call in and talk live here on Free Talk Live. That's why we called it that. It's the name of the show. It's Mark with you.
And Melanie.
Please feel free to call in and talk about whatever you want, but we do bring in things to talk about here on Free Talk Live. We call it show prep. And Melanie, apparently you brought in a doozy today. Millennials value sex over politics?
Other way around.
Politics over sex.
Yes.
Politics over sex. That's crazy. That part's crazy.
Well, it's sane.
Sane? All right. Then tell me about it.
Yeah, so basically they surveyed...
First off, poor millennials and everything that gets blamed on them. But all right. Well,
yeah, so we kill everything, I guess. And
are you a millennial then?
Yeah. I think it starts at 81.
I am Gen X, so I just sit here and watch the baby boomers blame the millennials.
Yeah, we kill everything. Elevator operators, phone, those people that stuck to things in the phones.
Flip phones?
No, the people who connected the lines. Operators, yeah.
But I'm just saying, flip phones have been killed off too. Are millennials responsible?
I mean, I guess, but drug dealers still use flip phones. Drug dealers and really, really poor people.
I'll take your word for it.
And paranoid people who are like, I think the NSA is somehow can't listen to my phone calls on this flip phone, but can track me on a smartphone for some reason. That never made sense to me, but I've met some people like that.
Yeah, they probably think that they can, not be tracked or something.
Yeah, if you carry a GPS in your pocket with you everywhere,
then you're probably going to be tracked.
And if you talk about being tracked, then you're probably even more likely to be tracked.
Probably.
Yeah, so apparently now we're killing indiscriminate promiscuity. I don't know that we're killing promiscuity, just the indiscriminate kind.
Okay.
Because you could still be discriminately promiscuous, I guess.
Yes, I suppose you could. So tell me about it.
So basically they surveyed a bunch of people They pulled data from OkCupid, and they also surveyed people.
Okay.
And they asked them, and it's not even a majority. It was just an increase. And basically they asked people, would you prefer your partner to, if you could only pick one, to agree with you on politics or to have better sex? And 30%.
If you're already having good sex, what difference does it make?
I don't think it was better than now. I think it was...
Okay.
It was like... Where did they phrase it?
Well, we'll read the article. Let's start there.
Politics are becoming increasingly more important to young people when looking for a potential romantic partner.
Sure, they have all that college debt, so they need socialism to bring in what they call socialism to come in and wipe out the college debt or something.
Anarchy will do that too, then there'll be nobody to pay it back to. Just a thought. If you're a socialist and that's your reason, there's no DOE, you don't owe it to anybody. But having fireworks in the bedroom isn't, according to reported data from OkCupid. Between 2016 and 2018, the number of millennial women defined by Pew Research as those born between 1981 and 1996.
Well, frankly, a women's opinion on sex is the only one that matters anyway, so go ahead.
Who prioritize dating someone with similar political opinions than having good sex increased from 27% to 42%, the dating service found, according to the New York Post.
Well, it's probably getting harder and harder to find a good liberal man, though.
Probably not.
No? You think they're turning? Women tend to be more liberal than men, right?
Typically, yeah.
That's the statistics. So there's only presumably so many liberal men to go around for so many liberal women.
There's also a lot of men who will just be liberal because they think it's going to get them laid.
I'm relatively certain that there's some large double-digit percentage of ethnic men who just lied about who they voted for in 2016.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure they just voted Trump and said they voted Clinton.
Most people who voted for Trump lied anyway because you don't see him being supported, but he won. So,
well, we'll see how that goes the next go round. At this point, he's not going to jail.
He wasn't going to jail anyway. He's the sitting
wasn't.
president. This is silliness.
Yes, the idea that the sitting president was going to somehow be found guilty of something is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
An increase was also noted in millennial men, with the amount increasing from 23% to 30%. So not as big of an increase, but I mean, this isn't even a majority. Like, they're complaining that we're not indiscriminate enough. And this isn't even a majority. 42 is close to a majority, but...
Well, I didn't pick my wife based on her political opinions. Now, being a libertarian, and we got married in 2005, started dating in 2003, this is all pre-Ron Paul, so the idea of just finding a libertarian woman didn't make much sense back then. But I didn't pick her based on her politics. I, just over time, listening to my arguments, I shouldn't use that term. Frankly, it was me asking her opinion on what points I should make on the air. So, from that standpoint, she argued herself into it.
Yeah, women are also more malleable about that kind of thing, I think. I'm not suggesting anything about your wife, but as a group, men kind of, and especially anarchist men, I understand why an anarchist man would...
What is an anarchist man?
A man who is an anarchist.
Okay, all right. Can we use the term libertarian when referring to me?
So I understand... Well, I just specifically, before that, said not you specifically.
All right.
So I understand why a libertarian man would settle for a woman who is not a libertarian, because you really don't have a whole lot to pick from. But even women who identify as libertarian, they're more LP than anything else.
That Libertarian Party?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand that it's suboptimal, but when I look at that, I'm more like, that sucks for that guy than I am, why would you do that? Also knowing women are more malleable as a species.
Do you have anything to back that up? Because I'm scared the idea that women are more malleable, and they certainly aren't a species. I tend to agree with you that it makes sense to me that they would be more flexible on their, preferences as far as...
I guess not more malleable overall, but more as far as what their partner is. So I guess I can look it up during the break, but if they marry a Republican, they're more likely to become a Republican than a man would be if he married a Republican or a Democrat.
I tend to agree with you. I just don't know if you have anything to back it up.
I'll look
so,
it up.
For instance, if you would have asked my wife in 2003, before she met me, if it was at all likely that she would end up married to an office-holding Republican, she would have said, absolutely not. Right? Like, her family were Labor Democrats for as long as she could remember. She'd voted Democrat every election and, all that stuff. So the idea that that would ever be the case is, completely antithetical to her belief system. Now,
Well, if you asked anybody if they would do a thing before while they were doing the opposite,
yes,
they're probably going to tell you no.
Right.
That's not surprising at all. But then when women do the same thing, when a woman libertarian goes and finds herself a statist, I'm like, why would you do that?
Now, they certainly don't need
that
to.
Doesn't make you don't need to do that.
They have
you have a less success rate in converting him after the fact. What are you doing?
I would agree with you. Yeah.
But yeah, but then if you're a Republican or a Democrat, I don't see how you have trouble finding the same person at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised that they don't have like Republican date and Democrat date out there. They probably do, but they're certainly not as well known as things like Tinder and there's JDate.
Or maybe they just don't need it because it's so like people who have a lot to pick from, who are socially qualified, whatever the opposite of inept is, don't necessarily need those sites.
I don't know. I haven't dated in years. 855-450-3733. Melanie said lots of sexist things. Which one do you disagree with? 855-450-FREE. Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live. You're free to call in and talk live about whatever's on your mind. This live edition, it's Mark with you.
And Melanie.
So if you listened last night, you got a chance to hear Mark Skousen, the economist who puts on Freedom Fest every year. And if you didn't, by the way, you can go to archives.freetalklive.com. You just go there and look at the date. So last night's show was March the 24th. You just look for that. Or you can search Mark Skousen. It's a pretty versatile website. You can find it there. But at archives.freetalklive.com, we have episodes that are going back for more than a decade for free for you, by the way. Archives.freetalklive.com. And if you're interested in going to Freedom Fest, this is an incredible event. So Penn Jillette's going to be there. They're going to have big names again this year. I remember I've seen Donald Trump there. I've seen Glenn Beck there. I've seen Steve Moore and all kinds of economists speak. It's a great event, and also lots of big investors. So if you're looking to do some networking and that kind of thing, Freedom Fest is the place to go. All the big names in the Liberty Movement are going to be there, and it's worth the event. So you can see the 5 biggest speeches from last year if you go to freedomfest.com/FTL. That's freedomfest.com/FTL. You can go there and purchase your tickets too, but if you're on the fence, this is worth it. This is worth just going to see. freedomfest.com/FTL. Let's go to Peter calling in from Washington. Peter, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yes. I just wanted to talk about the whole Russian report that came out yesterday, essentially saying that, gee whiz, nothing happened.
The Mueller Report? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what's important to really take away from this, especially as libertarians and perhaps Rothbardian anarchist libertarians, is to view what the state did. And what they did was they came out with a fake, phony story about Russia meddling in our affairs while neglecting the fact that we've been doing what they charged Russia with for more than 50 years, and we're doing it again in Venezuela.
Yeah, on a high level. I mean, Russia. Right. If Russia paid for some memes to be put on Facebook, that is small potatoes compared to what the CIA has been doing in other countries. Not to say that Russia's not guilty on a whole bunch of different levels of meddling in people's elections and just frankly subjugating people, but I mean the sin that might have occurred in 2016 is no sin at all compared to these two countries getting involved in other countries' business for decades.
Right, and moreover, you had groups like the Atlantic Council, a think tank that's funded by NATO, by the Defense Department, by essentially the military-industrial complex, a lot of those companies, and they were going after libertarian conservative speakers. I think they went after even Ron Paul in his show that he has. Essentially, they went after people who were saying, you know what, this Russian thing is nonsense, don't believe it. And they targeted them, they shadow banned them, meaning that if they posted something on Facebook, for some reason, like their followers or their audience couldn't see it. Therefore, of course, any donations that were possible just didn't happen because of that shadow banning. And most importantly, we see the power of the state when they can throw anyone in jail, and we saw that with, I think, notably with Roger Stone. Some innocent old man went to jail over a nonsense Russian story. If that isn't tyrannical, I don't know what is.
Well, I mean, they're just saying that not necessarily Trump colluded with the Russians. They can't prove that Trump did it, not that the collusion didn't go on, right?
Right. Yeah, but I mean, I think if we use a logical analysis here, there's no way. I mean, if that were true, then Russia would have a vested interest in propping up the dollar, and they don't. They've actually dumped all U.S. bonds. They're buying gold. They're in contact with China and Turkey and Iran and India. They all want to dump the dollar. Even the European Union wants to dump the dollar because we sanction everyone and we create incentives not to use the dollar. And so I really do think that this whole Russian thing was a bunch of nonsense. I do think that there was collusion, but it was on Hillary Clinton's part, and there was sufficient evidence.
I wouldn't propose to know this. I don't have any internal knowledge of what's going on as far as what happened with Russia or what didn't happen with Russia. I've got to take whatever's spit out by the media as much as anybody does. But what I would say is that the idea that what is being purported that Russia did is not very big. And secondly, that the idea that anybody thought that the president of the United States was going to go down over this
is delusional.
Yeah, it's delusional. I mean, this is the most powerful position on the planet, and he wasn't going to go down. And if you think you've got that kind of power, you need to sit back and think for a second. That's not how this system has worked. That's not how any system has worked up to this point. The political systems have always favored the rich and powerful over the poor and middle class. But I mean, by the rich people's standards, everybody in the middle class is poor. But the poor and the unconnected, the people who don't have political connections, they never get to run the political apparatus. They never have. They never will. Please call in, anyone. The number's 855-450-3733 and tell me one time in history when the poor and middle class have actually managed to run the government. I've tried to think about it exhaustively. Don't expect it to be easy because I don't have the most limited knowledge of history here. 855-450-3733. Anything else, Peter?
Yeah, I think that the fact that you mentioned the media, it just something came to my head. I think we all know that the media, they lie to us, and this goes back for years, notably in 2001. They clearly lied about this Russian nonsense. They peddled this. I think there was a video of Rachel Maddow even crying about this.
They say that she came near to tears. I listened to the video. I didn't really. I didn't watch every second of it or anything, so I don't know if she came near to tears or not. But I didn't. She wasn't bawling. She wasn't weeping.
Right, but again, this just shows you the establishment. They were all in this, and it's quite sad that they think we're all idiots or morons.
Do they have any? Is there any good evidence that they're wrong? Right, the people have been putting up with this notion that these people who we have always thought the government, right? That's just people. We've always thought of them as liars and thieves, and somehow everything they do is okay because we need laws, and without the military, we'd be speaking German or some crap. These are goons, thugs, idiots, lunatics, killers, and thieves. That's what the government is. 855-450. Thanks for the call, Peter. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Free Talk Live.
The Bitcoin.com wallet is a simple and powerful full-featured wallet that allows you to send and receive Bitcoin, BTC, and Bitcoin Cash, BCH, with anyone, anywhere in the world. It supports both single and multi-signature wallets and is available in multiple languages. The Bitcoin.com wallet is available on Windows, Linux, Mac, Android, and iOS devices. Use the Bitcoin.com wallet to buy, send, store, and receive both Bitcoin, BTC, and Bitcoin Cash, BCH. Learn more at wallet.bitcoin.com. That's wallet.bitcoin.com.
Talk Live. You are free to call in, talk live about whatever's on your mind. We're talking about this article that apparently millennials value their romantic partner's politics over good sex. And, of course, somebody called in about the Mueller Report, which is on people's mind. So it doesn't surprise me. I can't say I know everything about the Mueller Report. I was just unsurprised when it came in and said that there weren't going to be any further arrests and, that
Because you can't arrest the president, so this is all foolishness in the first place.
Yeah, I don't know about can't, but they weren't going. That basically there wasn't enough evidence to indict the president or whatever the heck they were saying, and I just don't think it's likely to. I just didn't think it. I was like, duh, that's what was going to happen. That's what I've been saying all along. So to me, it was just confirmation to what I had believed up to this point. Let's go to the phones. Got Matthew calling in from Louisiana. Matthew, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, Melanie, this thing you brought up when you started off the phone, when you started off the show, is I don't ever really think women have been promiscuous at all. I remember when I got back from Japan, about the only thing I could reconcile myself with, well, there was supposed to be some kind of a sexual revolution happening in the United States. It wasn't here. I didn't see it.
Okay, well, A, where in the United States did you go, and B, what time frame are we talking about?
Okay, early 70s to basically, oh my God, freaking idiot just walked out in front of the roadway.
Well, you're in Louisiana.
Right. And that's where I was. I was in Louisiana.
Okay. So you went to a highly conservative area of the country. I mean, the U.S. is like a third of a continent. And you went like just after this revolution. I mean, so like what? And I'm not sure what you're comparing it to, but okay, so compared to now, maybe that wasn't the case. Compared to the 1940s or the 1950s, I mean, people weren't really sleeping around at all. And then when they were, they kind of hid it. Like, it wasn't just a normal thing to sleep with 5 people before you got married. Like,
I'm just curious because I really strongly suspect that women's behavior when it comes to sex is more controlled by the limbic part of their brain as opposed to, the other parts of their brain. Well, men's too, but women's they're more concerned about other things than just obtaining immediate gratification.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have more risks, but you can look up the stats of like number of lifetime partners. They're not as bad as some people might think, because you might have met somebody who's you see these people and you're like, oh, I've slept with 27 people, I've slept with 53 people. It's like, okay, that's really horrible, but that's not everybody. So that's gonna kind of
hear that, folks. If you slept with 27 people, you're horrible.
How many people are bragging just to make themselves look like, something that they're not?
You probably get that.
Probably not many women.
All the time.
Yeah, you probably get that more from men than women.
In high school, there wasn't a guy in high school who hadn't had plenty of sex. Mind you, it was all in there. But we do know one guy for a fact that had sex, and that was the high school quarterback. He knocked up 3 girls.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was the proof.
Well, I'm sure you regretted it.
Well, those paychecks he got from the Canadian Football League, they gone.
Yep, they would be taken care of. When I would agree with you that when women, if we're going to make generalizations here, I guess that's what we're talking about. We're talking about sex. You can't talk about sex without talking about genders. When women say that they value politics over X, the good sex or whatever. In this case, in this article, it's good sex. I don't think that they can follow through on that statement necessarily. It's hard enough to find somebody you're compatible with. Once you sit down at a date, you start talking to somebody, you like them, you don't like them. And then once you like them, then you'll make a lot of excuses about whatever it is that might not be, that great about them. And
well, yeah, obviously.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's possible too. It might just be that everybody's lying. I mean, we can't control for
No,
that.
I don't think they're lying. I think that people don't know what their motivations are. So when you ask them what their motivations are, they're going to come up with things that they consider to be more socially right? If you ask guys what they're looking for in a woman, at least mature guys, what they're looking for in a woman, they may give you a whole variety of things that sound great, but it may not, in fact, be what they're looking for. There's a lot of divorces in America. Half of people are divorced, or I don't remember what the statistic is, but it's half of something.
It's half. It's been declining pretty rapidly. And then the way those numbers count, so somebody who got divorced 30 years ago still counts as divorced. If you look at the recent divorces, it's a lot lower.
What happens?
Closer to like 30.
What happens with people like my dad who got divorced like 5 times?
Then it depends on which stat you're looking up.
What's that, Matthew?
He was hard to live with?
Apparently. Thanks for the call.
Ciao.
855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. That's the problem. A guy like me who's been married one time and never divorced there's somebody out there like my dad who's been married 5 times. He's passed away now, but so I guess he doesn't count. But got married 5 times. So
yeah, and they do count marriages rather than people. So if one guy gets married 5 times, then they're going to say that 4 out of 5 marriages end in divorce.
Right.
You can also look up stats, though, for how many of those are first marriages, and that number is really low.
Yeah, I would say that that's a much more interesting fact, is how many first marriages fail, as opposed to anything else. But yeah, some people need to try it at 19 and give it a run for a year and a half and say, I can't live like this, and then try it again a decade later, and it'll work. I mean, it does. I've met plenty of people like that. Sooner or later, the last relationship you had.
Yeah, and they just weren't. Yeah, and I have a friend who did kind of that, but yeah, they just weren't an adult yet. But
there's a new study out right now. I've got the show prep for it. In fact, it says that now psychologists are saying that people don't become adults until they're in their 30s, according to the scientists, whatever the hell that means, BBC.com. Go ahead.
Yeah, so then because I back up my sexist statements from the Inquiries Journal, which is a journal for social sciences, arts, and humanities, this article, The Effect of Marriage on Political Identification, 2010, Volume 2, Number 1, page 1/1. I guess that means page 1. I don't know. By Shirokal
1 of 1.
Strubber. Another theory that addresses spousal influence is Becker's joint household utility theory. This theory of party identification implies that both the husband and the wife will vote on the basis of the husband's economic interests. Can 2006. So yes, that what I said is a thing.
What's the likelihood? So like 2 out of 3 or something. Usually that's what they're talking about when they're talking about statistics like this. I mean, if it's just 56%, it's hard to get too excited about it. But 66%, you're talking about some kind of statistics.
Say.
Well, obviously, it isn't 100% of the time, right?
Well, no. I mean, nothing
is.
We haven't gotten that far in neurology or psychology to predict with that kind of accuracy.
Well, we don't want to have that kind of accuracy. Good Lord, that means just...
Yeah, no, that'd be really creepy, but
we don't
we're
have
not
choice
there,
anymore.
So...
Well, yes, I guess I'm unsurprised that men and women tend to vote based on the economic benefits to the man's paycheck. So, there you go. What do you think? 855-450-3733. It's 855-450. Free as in freedom. Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live. You are free to call in and talk live on this live edition of Free Talk Live. If it is between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern Time, whatever day it is of the year, we are here on Free Talk Live for you. I want to tell you about ForkFest 2019. You can start planning now to attend ForkFest 2019. Join liberty-minded, voluntarists, anarchists, libertarians, all here this summer, June 13th through the 18th for ForkFest 2019 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest is it's a camping party in the woods, and you're invited to come and create whatever experience you'd like others to have, or just come and camp. That's what I'm going to be doing. I guess the experience I'd like people to have is I'm going to be broadcasting from there. It's forkfest.party. It's decentralized. No one's in charge. It's just you coming and camping. And if you want to give speeches or you want to do things, it's great. Forkfest.party. You can go there. You can find more information, the unofficial Telegram chat, the Forkfest forum, forkfest.party. Let's get back to this. Is there more in this report about apparently women? Well, I guess it's millennials is what they're calling it.
More so women, but yes. So women are up to 42%, and men are up to 30%.
And what 30% of what? What is the question?
Of men and of women would seek out someone who has similar politics rather than someone who would have good sex.
Good sex. That's right. Okay, so politics better than sex, according to millennials or something.
Well, it's not no sex. I guess you still get bad sex. I don't know.
Right. I guess. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know.
It didn't specify.
People would have to have had good sex in order to determine what good sex is.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say that I was in a relationship where I thought the sex was going well and that everything else wasn't, and I did not do everything to keep that relationship afloat. So maybe I would fall into this category. I just didn't feel like it was a full, complete person. Didn't have wasn't an adult ready for adulthood, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't know. And I mean, I guess it depends on what your control group looks like, which is going to vary wildly from person.
Sure, there's lots of people that they're going to be on these dating websites. They've never had sex at all. Other people who are pretty good at it, I guess.
Yeah. So then, additionally, the company found that placing more value on politics than what goes on under the sheets isn't a new trend. Since 2004, which was the year I turned 18. OkCupid's data, I was not on there the year I turned 18, but I did turn 18 that year. OkCupid's data shows that the number of young people who preferred to date along party lines increased by 165%. Meanwhile, the amount of people who placed a high value on having a fulfilling sex life decreased by 30%.
So that's the percentage increase, not the percentage of people who answered the question, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I guess I mean, I think it's kind of amusing that they asked the question. I think it's amusing to think about people dating, looking for these things, but
I don't
not
see
surprised.
Why, especially if you're one of the two major parties, like. Why would you add that complication to your life? Like, I wasn't going to marry a statist. Why would and anarchists are harder to find? I think that I would have settled for a minarchist as long as they were like an actual minarchist, not just like, oh,
you're gonna have to define these terms for people. They're not going to know what you mean.
Yes.
What you're saying is
classical liberalism,
a libertarian, and versus somebody sort of a libertarian that believes in small government as opposed to no government.
Yeah, so somebody who actually wants to shrink government to a minimum, roads, fire department, court system, and that's it, versus somebody who's like, oh yes, I'm a minarchist because I want to legalize weed. Like, well, no, you just want to smoke weed. That's not a political identity, actually.
I think that you can, I guess this is a question for the audience, is can you determine much about a person that you would be looking to date based on their politics?
Absolutely.
Is their politics being similar to yours important in that way? So for me, I knew, like, I'm vain, right? Like, I believe in me, and I knew that I was going to be able to convince anyone because I believe in the ideas of liberty as I represent them. So I figure I could convince anybody who I'd be in a relationship with. So I don't tend to push these ideas on friends and family very hard. I don't
push any conversation on anybody that they don't want to have unless it's a conversation about how they have to pay their bill. So Because there's no point to that. If I just go around and I'm like, hi, we're going to talk about anarchy today, and they're like, I really don't want to, that accomplishes nothing. It annoys them. It represents anarchy as something that is annoying, and it does me no good because I'm not converting them, and I'm not even practicing debating or anything like that because it's not a debate. It's just me yelling at them.
I'm not sure that anarchy could be really represented as anything but annoying. We are so socialized in Western civ to think of anarchy as a bad thing that even using the term I find pretty unconvincing, at least on a general scale. If you're sitting there and having beers with somebody and you're like, hey, I bet you never knew I was an anarchist, and then you go on and talk to them, maybe you can convince them. But I'm not sure under too many other circumstances that the term just makes people think
so if I'm,
like cars on fire, people throwing Molotov cocktails, people with bandanas over their faces, that kind of thing.
I'm also okay with being the bad cop because we have way too many good cops, but I don't typically open with that if I'm just in a like normal human situation. You get them to trust you, or at least, not think of you as an insane person, and then you bring that up later. Hopefully they'll bring it up later. They're probably not going to bring up anarchy later, but they will probably at some point ask you a question to which a responsive answer is, I'm an anarchist.
Well, at some point or another, that's probably true. Well, as far as this goes, I guess the audience, I'm looking for the answer to the question is, do you think you can figure out things about your prospective mate based on their political party? So, for instance, I mean, there's lots of good people out there that are Democrats and lots of good people out there that are Republicans, lots of good people out there that vote for the Green Party, and people that don't vote at all. They don't think about these things. To me, I wouldn't look for that. I'd look for their value set. What kind of character do they have?
Something about your values. So,
but a lot of people would never even consider. But 50% of the population doesn't vote in a presidential election. So, do they have no values?
No. So that part is kind of less important to me. But your political beliefs overall, not even necessarily, the letter behind your name. But for most people, that's what it's going to be, because most people adopt one of the two main ideologies.
But mostly they adopt that ideology because of one reason, one issue.
That's what their parents were.
Well, that may be it. But usually they've got one issue that turns them. So, like, I've got gay friends, and you don't like my gay friends if you're a Republican, right? Like, they haven't thought about this. They haven't considered it. They haven't spent any time looking at this stuff.
Well, then that tells me enough right there.
Well, it doesn't, though. I mean, it just shows that they're not interested in this subject enough to learn more about it. That's all. I mean, if somebody goes and votes because somebody told them they should, that doesn't make them a good or bad person. They think it makes them a better person because they're supposed to go, you got to rock the vote, right? But
yeah, so if, somebody disagrees over whether sales tax should be 8% or whether we should have property tax instead and put sales tax at 0%, that does not really tell me much about that person, really. But I don't know, it's also the case that what people would consider my political ideology is also the main part of my moral system.
Well, that's how it is with libertarians, and that's why Free Talk Live is an outreach of the Shire Free Church. It's ministry, because we're actually purporting a moral philosophy as opposed to just another radio program telling you to vote for some particular political party. I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, voting for a political party is not a solution to anything.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's as true for Republicans or Democrats, but there's moral problems that I know would come up if I was married to a Democrat, and there's moral problems that I know would come up if I was married to a Republican, so I don't see how mixing those would work.
Well, if your philosophy is good enough, then you should be able to convert them, right? The number, 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE as in freedom. Or you can use the Discord lines. Just go to discord.freetalklive.com. Download the app there, discord.freetalklive.com.
Did you know you can legally exit the U.S. federal income tax system? Well, it's true, and thousands of American nationals are doing it. The 16th Amendment and the Internal Revenue Code are legal, but only in a limited jurisdiction. This is the basis behind the voluntary nature of the income tax. Learn the exit strategy provided by Congress. Find out more by visiting weissparis.com and watch our numerous videos. That's WEISS Paris.com.
Free Talk Live.
Kicking off the second hour of Free Talk Live. It's Mark with you.
And Melanie.
You can call in and talk about whatever you want. We were talking about some report previously that says that millennials value politics over good sex on dating sites or something like that. And I think we pretty much talked that one to death. Obviously, we talked about the Mueller Report that's on people's minds these days. I guess I'm unsurprised by the whole thing, but I've got an article here from the BBC. And this is somewhat related to what we were just talking about. It says people don't become adults until their 30s, scientists say. Have you ever been told to grow up in your 20s, or you need an excuse as to why you still find cat videos on the internet really funny? I find cat videos on the internet funny.
You can pay your bills and also laugh at cat videos.
Yes, you can do that. Well, now you might have an official reason as to why you're not acting like a mature adult. People don't become fully adult until they're in their 30s, according to brain scientists. I don't know.
Yeah, that doesn't really sound like something a brain scientist would say.
Prior to this, they were saying things like 25.
Yeah, I remember 25. When I was 18, they were like, we hate you because you're not 25. I was like, well, I hate you too then. And then when I turned 25, they were like, oh, we like you now. I was like, F off.
Currently, let's see, people don't become fully adult until their 30s. Currently, the UK law states you become a mature adult when you reach the age of 18. Scientists,
the UK law does not state that. It grants you it probably grants you contractual rights.
Yes.
Age of consent, the right to leave your parents' house. No, the UK law does not state that you become a mature adult at age 18.
No, it doesn't. Scientists who study the brain and nervous system say the age at which you become an adult is different for everyone. Well, that sounds accurate, and I don't think anyone would disagree. Research suggests people age 18 are still going through changes in the brain which can affect behavior and make them more likely to develop mental health disorders. Professor Peter Jones from Cambridge University said...
is he a brain scientist,
He must be, right? Otherwise, why would we be talking about him here? What we're really saying is that to have a definition of when you move from childhood to adulthood looks increasingly absurd. And I would agree with that. It's a much more nuanced transition that takes place over 3 decades. I guess systems like the education system, the health system, and the legal system make it convenient for themselves by having definitions. When you reach 18, you can vote, buy alcohol, get a mortgage. And
no, you can't.
What's that?
You can't buy alcohol at 18.
Oh, this is BBC.
Okay.
And they're also treated as an adult if you get in trouble by the police, which is pretty important. Right? It's here in the United States. So what they'll do is that you're a juvenile unless you commit what they call an adult crime, and then they'll charge you as an adult. But if you're over the age of 18, they never would like you get caught spray painting. They're not going to charge you as a juvenile because it's juvenile crime.
I've never seen any state that works that way.
What do you mean?
So they usually have a cutoff, and then there's also usually a range where they can argue about it. So it's like, okay, well, at 17, you're an adult, and from 10 to 17, you're a juvenile unless we deem you an adult.
Right. Well, how can you deem a juvenile an adult? Because they feel like it?
I mean, basically.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Allegedly, they have to prove that you have the mental abilities of an adult, which...
How could they possibly do that? Everybody knows that, 14-year-olds don't have the mental capabilities of adults. I mean, it's frankly ludicrous. Let's see. Going on. Despite this, Professor Jones says he believes experienced criminal judges recognize the difference between a 19-year-old defendant and a hardened criminal in their late 30s.
That's typically true.
I think the system is adapting to what... Well, there's plenty of people who are in prison, at least in the Florida state prison system, who committed a crime when they were 16, 17, 18, 19 years old who will never see the light of day. So,
yes, and I'm not advocating for the criminal system, but I think that overall judges will be like, okay, well, you're 19 versus I've seen you 5 times, you're 30, quit doing this.
Yeah, judges may note that difference, but judges really don't have much sway in sentencing anymore. And the ones in the cases that they do, they're incentivized to give, or at least at some point in the recent past, were incentivized to give heavier sentences rather than light ones. I mean, you know, the Florida system went from a gain time system where people would do 10% of the time they were given to a system where they had to do 85%. Like, that doesn't solve crime. That's just a reaction to a bad legal system, a already inefficient legal system. Anyway, going on here. By the way, if a young lady has sex at 14 or something, whether she's an adult or a kid, it doesn't change the consequences of her actions. You know, whether you decide whether she's an adult or decide whether she's a kid, it doesn't change those consequences. She's still going to have to deal with a pregnancy. I think the system is adapting to what's hiding in plain sight. That people don't like the idea of a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, he said. I don't know what that means. There isn't a childhood, then an adulthood. People are on a pathway. They're on a trajectory. Jones is one of a number of experts who are taking part in a neuroscience meeting hosted by the Academy of Medical Sciences in Oxford. Yeah, I mean, this seems like pretty clear statements. Melanie, you're above the age of 30, right?
Yes.
So did you think at 25 you were thinking the same as you are now?
No, and I don't think I'll be thinking the same I am in 5 years that I am now. That's just a statement that people progress. It doesn't have anything to do with when you're not an adult.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I tend to, I've always sort of accepted this notion that people become adults at about 25. Like, you know, that the stuff that's going on prior to 25 looks a lot like not adulthood. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to make your own decisions or anything like that. It just doesn't look like what I would call adulthood. Obviously, you're responsible for your actions. You're responsible for your actions whether you've hit 18 or not. There's not much evidence that you're not. You walk out in front of a bus. It doesn't matter if you're 12 or 33.
So if you're going to say that 18-year-olds are less experienced than 25-year-olds, well, yeah, obviously that's true. To me, the more relevant question is, does it still benefit you to have someone else, be controlling your life? And in a incredibly small subset of people who are ultra wealthy, that is probably the case. For the overwhelming majority of humans on Earth, it does not benefit you at 18, 24, 16 to still have somebody who can, tell you that you can't have a job, move out, and eat cereal for lunch if that's what you want to do.
I find it interesting that 18-year-olds are considered, honestly, unprepared for the world. And people do consider that. I do. I certainly believe that. We don't give them the right to drink, but they can sign a contract that puts them in the military for 6 years. They can sign a contract that puts them into debt for college for $100,000. I mean, these are some pretty serious situations that we allow 18-year-olds to get into. And I kind of feel like they're being preyed upon in many cases by people who are not 18, who are helping them in these circumstances. Now, I would agree with you that, yeah, you probably don't need a lot of people, making decisions for you or whatever, when you're 18, that you're the best person to make decisions, but that doesn't make you good at it.
Well, right. And so these people aren't, it's kind of like comparing what we have to some ethereal utopia. You have to compare what you have to what the alternative is. These people aren't all going to college over the objection of their parents. They're going to college most of the time at the strong suggestion of their parents.
Their parents, their guidance counselors, their teachers. I mean, the whole system stacked against these kids.
So then what you would want to do, not you personally, but what somebody who doesn't think you're an adult until 30 would want to do is say, okay, not only now can they suggest you go get an $100,000 debt, they can now force you into $100,000+ debt because you're not 30 yet. No, absolutely not.
855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live. You can call in, talk about whatever's on your mind. It's Mark with you.
And Melanie.
855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. And Free Talk Live is brought to you by Bitcoin.com. Bitcoin.com is your premier source for everything Bitcoin related. Bitcoin.com can help you choose a Bitcoin wallet or buy Bitcoin and show you where you can spend your Bitcoin. Places like saveatpurse.com. They just rolled out local.bitcoin.com, which is a service that allows you to meet with people and get Bitcoin right in your town. You can read the latest news or engage with the community in the Bitcoin forum. You can learn more at Bitcoin.com. Bitcoin.com is your source for news and features and everything you need when it comes to cryptocurrency. Bitcoin.com. Let's go to Sarah calling in from New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yes, I'm just hoping the Hindu temple that we have here, I hope they start a feeding ban program because they have those.
The Hindu temple in New Mexico, I presume Albuquerque, you want them to have a speeding program?
No, feeding.
Feeding, okay.
Yes. Yes, we the Hindu temple is new. The Catholics here never welcomed the Hindu religion. I guess they were always taught that they were a cult. But I really
Who didn't welcome them?
The Catholics here.
Oh, Catholics. Okay. Well, I mean,
I was told they were.
That's what established religions do. Established religions tend not to believe that other religions are acceptable.
Right. They would say that, but the Mormons have many temples here, and the Jewish synagogues they have several of those Jewish organization buildings here.
Well, it's not like you need an invitation to open up a church or a religious building. So the Mormons and the Jews just didn't care that what the Catholics thought about their particular religion. I don't think the Hindus probably really cared either, but they, penetration from half a world away is more difficult than from half a continent away.
Yeah. So, and then I believe really they used to have a white van, and I think they would do it in San Diego, and they would come out in Honolulu, and they would come onto the park and feed people. But they believe that the prasadam, the food, is addicting because it has they pray over it. It has special energy, and people become devotees just because of the food. I see that.
They think that people are going to become Hindus because they ate food that was prayed over by Hindus?
Well, the Hare Krishnas, so people just ate the food. They became devotees. And one of the,
having the only source of food is a good way to get people to join your organization.
But it's not the only source of food.
Well, it's not in New Mexico.
It's free. Well, Sunday free. It was 5 o'clock Sunday evening. I would go there, and they would put on a free feast, and then they would bring out the food trucks. And the people that were involved in eating it, they became devotees just because of the food. You know?
So you're saying it does work. All right. I mean, I'm skeptical of this. It seems like if you just hand out free food, you get the sort of people that want free food, not people are going to necessarily be devotees to your religion. It seems like they would probably go around. Let's see, the Hindus are doing it on Thursday, the Catholics are doing it on Friday, Mormons doing it on Saturday, Jews doing it on Sunday. Let's hit them all.
That's what people did in undergrad. They just eat lunch at whatever church had free lunch that day.
Yeah.
But I kind of scoffed at it. When she told me that they became devoted just because they ate the food, I said, "Oh, please!" I said, "Oh, please!" But see, they put the food underneath a picture, like a deity picture of a god. They ring a bell and they pray over the food. And I believe that there's a special energy that goes and touches the food, and and people become more conscious towards that religion. They're more accepting. But I don't see. But but it's hard to swallow that. Well, they say that it's been kissed by God.
I mean, or it could just be that if you hang out with Hindus once a week, you're more likely to become a Hindu than somebody who's never met one.
I guess that means that they have better stuff that they're talking about, more interesting stuff than the places that these people were going to get food otherwise, if that's the case. Sarah, it's very interesting. Thank you for the call. 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. I don't see much of a question there. Should churches be allowed to hand out food? Obviously. Is it a recruitment tool that works? Probably, at some point. But, I don't know exactly what or how. So, anyway, 855-450-3733. Got this. We were just talking about the article here where people don't become adults until they reach their 30s, according to brain scientists, at least here at the BBC here. I'm not entirely sure I agree or disagree, but I think it's very interesting.
I'm not entirely sure they even have any credentials whatsoever.
Well, they're the BBC. They got some credentials.
No, the brain scientists.
So. Another one here I've got. This one just amused me. Apparently, in some online Twitter screed, share while I guess attempting to demonstrate that men should have their bodies controlled by the legal system the way that women do, called for a law ensuring that men must be circumcised and show papers, or for other evidence, we'll call it.
There's no requirement remotely like that for women, though, in this country.
Not in this country, but basically, if you decide that abortion laws affect a woman's body as opposed to the body of, say, an unborn child, then any ridiculous statement then makes sense.
Yeah, but like kicking your pregnant girlfriend down the stairs is also illegal.
Well,
so that's equally illegal.
Kicking your girlfriend down the stairs is illegal. Are you saying that it's additionally illegal?
In a lot of states, yeah. A lot of states have feticide laws for unwilling, abortion upon an unwilling woman. They can't call it murder, but you're going to jail.
Yeah. Well, I kind of think that that's the not just going to jail. Bad things are going to happen to you. I tend to agree with this statement. However, I don't know. I certainly don't get as worked up as everybody else does about this particular law. It seems like, to me, abortion laws are just, they're genocide committed by the liberals on the liberals, the poor on the poor, and the, below average intelligence on the below average intelligence. But anyway, just when you thought Hollywood couldn't get any further from reality, Cher reminds everyone why most actors and actresses should stay out of politics altogether. Left-wing pop icon Cher suggested in a recent social media post that women create laws over men's bodies, like banning the use of Viagra and giving the death penalty for those that use massage parlors. Republicans believe they've got God-given right to dictate what we do with our bodies, she exclaimed.
Prostitution is already illegal. What is she talking about?
Well, it's not the death penalty. 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. Free Talk Live.
If you want to move to the Free State and you're looking for some real estate, well, I know a guy who's really great. It's the Realtor Mark Warden.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Warden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Warden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Free Talk Live. You're welcome to call in, talk about whatever's on your mind. The number is 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE here on Free Talk Live. I do want to ask you for a favor. So we are using this new channel called Twitch, or it's new to us, right? I guess new compared to Free Talk Live. We've been around forever. But if you go to twitch.freetalklive.com, it's a way that we can stream high-quality HD video of Free Talk Live. And it's a way for new people to find FTL. If you go to twitch.freetalklive.com, we're trying to reach this promoter status or some new status, and we need a certain number of viewers for the whole month. So if you go there and you just open up the browser window at twitch.freetalklive.com and keep it open, whenever your computer's on, just keep that browser window open. Then you're helping us out because we're getting another viewer there, and that's how we need to do this. So twitch.freetalklive.com. That's twitch.freetalklive.com. Go on here reading Cher's bizarre tweet rampage. Women must make laws to control men's bodies. No Viagra, Rogaine, testosterone. All men must be circumcised and show papers, or, well, it begins with a P, and it would be the evidence that you were circumcised. To prove it, massage parlors punishable by death. Men take the pill. When I was single, I would have loved a pill for the men.
Yeah, most men who would be in a position to have that problem have told me, that I've talked to, have told me that they would like for that to be legal now. Thanks, please.
Yeah, I would love a pill for men. Earlier this month, she suggested that President Donald Trump supporters are child molesters and wife beaters. Why is Trump always PR man for villains? 72-year-old asks, why does he kowtow, kiss, butts of dictators, child molesters, murderers, wife beaters, anti-Semites, white supremacists, haters of all skin, not lily white? It just sounds like a politician, frankly.
Those didn't even sound like sentences.
Well, it's Twitter. It's not really sentences.
Oh, okay, so you have the character limit. All right.
Yeah, the character limit's twice as much now, so it used to be like 144, maybe it's 288 or something, 140, 280, I don't know. It's gotten more. Anyway, I just thought it was kind of amusing, this screed, and it shows how unglued people have become over this particular president. And I think that this new Mueller report has probably sent some of these people. Well, we read articles here on the air that there were people who were staying alive to hear the Mueller report, that they were trying to hold on to life itself. Old people just waiting for the Mueller report to come out so that they could find out that Trump was going to be impeached and they could die in peace. And what's it like for those people today?
Well, they might be dead.
They probably died of disappointment. I'd like to see the statistics on how many people died shortly after the Mueller report was released. There's a lot of deluded individuals that are just hanging on, thinking that this Mueller report is somehow going to, well, there's something hidden in here. It hasn't been released yet. We don't know. We don't know. It could still happen. That amuses me. I'm not the biggest Trump fan in the world. I didn't vote for Donald Trump. It's not my guy by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm not going to get all bent out of shape. It's just amazing to watch my friends, especially on Facebook, just every time. I mean, Facebook's been around long enough that I can see this. When Bush is in office, the Democrats are going bananas. When Obama's in office, the Republicans are going bananas. Now Trump's in office. Well, frankly, both of them are going bananas, but half of the Republicans and all the Democrats are just going nuts. No, ladies and gentlemen, no. No, ladies and gentlemen, you are not going to see a Democrat elected in 2020. That's a prediction, admittedly. It's certainly not gospel truth. But, I mean, you know, it really takes something for this to occur. There's only been very few instances in recent history that somebody didn't get 2 terms. In the one case, you had Jimmy Carter. Now, he had a terrible economy. Trump does not have that. And in the other case, it was George Bush Sr., and he had a third popular candidate running against him. He had Ross Perot. You're not going to have, at this point, there is no third popular candidate on the horizon. You know, the Rock, Dwayne Johnson, is not going to be running as a Green Party member. That's what it would take, to my mind, is it would take somebody with name recognition that...
Well, that would split the Democrats anyway, but...
Well, they would have first. They would have to be the only way that Trump's going to lose in 2020 is if somebody like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson gets the Democratic nod, and he's probably not liberal enough for a lot of Democrats out there. And the funny part is that they've got all these different liberal Democrats vying for the slot. This is going to be. The liberals are really shooting themselves in the foot. And when I'm saying the liberals, I'm saying that on purpose, because Democrats aren't necessarily liberal. But there's a large, powerful contingent of Democrats that are liberal. And those people are going to run, they're going to finally get their candidate in a year that they cannot win, making their whole run unimportant. And they're going to, it's going to be used as evidence that liberals can't win. Well, you can't win anyway this go around. So Bernie running at, what is he, 89? I have no idea. That's not Elizabeth Warren. The list goes on and on of these highly liberal candidates, and they're not going to go anywhere. Well, that's my opinion anyway. If you think you know something different, 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. I'd love to hear it because I'm certainly not right all the time. And, I feel bad for these folks. In many cases, they really get whipped up. But, Trump isn't going to just go away as much as you want that to happen. By the way, if he did go away, then you get Mike Pence as president. Is that a win? Melanie, tell me about this apparently the story that New Zealand had some kind of gun confiscation site, maybe information or something on what to do with your gun, and that it's been taken down because they got too much trouble on it over the internet?
So after the shooting, which was blamed on the U.S. somehow, in New Zealand, a guy shot up a mosque. And so New Zealand was like, well, hey, you can turn in your guns if you want. Just fill out this form online. And tell us, things like how many guns you have, what kind. And you can turn them in. And we're not going to confiscate them yet, maybe. But, if you turn them in if you want to. So a bunch of people, I know that some of them were from the U.S., but a bunch of people turned in trolling forms. Because it wasn't, password protected or anything. You just go fill out, is anyone with internet access could just go fill out one of these forms. Uh-huh. And so they had that so much that they took down the site. Yeah, I mean, what are they going to do? How are they going to prove that somebody filling out the site is from New Zealand? I mean, that's not going to work. Yeah, so this one guy wanted to turn in his military-style semi-automatic. Serial number, can't say that on the air. The caliber of the firearm, it's an airplane, so missiles probably. Firearm accessories, half a tank of gas and a flat tire. What? Just saying silly things, and some bureaucrat has to go through this and look at it all. This guy was going to turn in a thermonuclear bomb because his wife keeps nagging him to get it out of the garage. Well, I mean, you want to be able to park the car in the garage. I mean, what did you pay for the garage for? To store stuff? I mean, I don't know what nuclear bombs go for, but I imagine they go for more than a garage is worth. Yeah, I suppose. I don't know who are you going to sell it to? Someone horrible and evil, probably. Right. I don't know. So who's willing to pay for it? Because the government's just going to come in and take it. So that's the problem with having a thermonuclear weapon is there's nobody to sell it to. 855-450-3733. 855-450-FREE. Free Talk Live. Talk Live. You can call in, talk about whatever's on your mind.
The number, 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. You can also call us using the Discord lines. Go to discord.freetalklive.com. You can get the app there, or you can just look through on the page. I don't think you can call through on the web browser page, though. You have to get the app to do that. It's best to use your phone, but the Discord will use the data aspect of your phone and put together a much better quality call than just a regular telephone line. It uses the old copper system. Just not going to work as well. That's discord.freetalklive.com. Melanie, we were reading this article that apparently the New Zealand government was putting up a website to help people give their guns away to the government. And turns out some nasty Americans that like guns went and trolled the bejesus out of
and so
them.
they specifically said that they don't know that they were Americans. I know on the internet some of the people who did this. I don't think that any of theirs are on here. But yeah, this guy wants to get one of a B-61 thermonuclear bomb.
So he's trying to turn in a thermonuclear weapon. Pretty clear he doesn't have that.
Yeah, and then he said, I'd be more than happy to drop it off. Just let me know where you want it. Exclamation point.
Well, that's not quite a threat. But
it might
close.
be New Zealand. I don't know.
Right? You never know in New Zealand.
A phased plasma rifle?
That's probably from some particular genre of science fiction. Yep.
And they wrote a poem in the firearm accessories.
Just wrote a poem. Okay,
yes.
Well, it's nice to have a poem. Is it a lewd poem? It's like
I'm not.
There once was a man from Nantucket.
Sure. I feel like it is, but I'm not sure.
Okay. How do you know if how is it that you don't know that a poem is lewd?
I mean, I could probably say it on the radio, but I feel like it's alluding to things. I'm not sure.
Well, if it doesn't use the naughty words, then let's give it a shot.
Okay. Firearm accessories. This guy listed big iron on his hip. Big iron. Big iron. Oh, right. He tried to match the Ranger with the big iron on his hip.
That's got to be a song lyrics. All right.
This guy, type military style semi-automatic, model poop flaming gremlin, firearm accessories, grid pod with the bipod thing, tactical red laser, sight mark red dot, bungee cord sling.
So what that's lampooning there is that those that are called liberals, I don't even know what term to use to describe everybody out there, but let's just use the term liberals. It's one that has it. Are often scared of black rifles. The same rifle with a wooden stock is less feared, than the rifle.
Than the safer flame retardants. Quote, assault rifle.
Yeah, I think it's only the most marginal of safety had, but it's really just an appearance. It's like saying red cars run over more people, so they've got to get rid of them. That's silly. Everybody knows it's silly. So, when you're thinking about these rifles out here, military style, that's the terminology that they're using these days. A military style rifle, well, just because it's black and has rails that you can put accessories on does not mean that it's military style.
Yeah, leftists are racist towards rifles.
Yeah.
They don't like the black ones. Also, he wants to turn in a Molam Labe port cover.
Molam Labe, come and take it. What port cover? What is that?
I don't know, and I don't know if it's even a real thing.
Okay.
An SMW with a type of caliber, the big boy Fitty Cal.
Well, I guess it doesn't surprise me. So what was the result here? They pulled the whole website down because too many people were sending silly things to them?
Yeah, so then they said apparently a number of people outside of New Zealand, I don't know how they determined that or if they did, weren't too thrilled on the idea of gun control, websites being blocked, or people being arrested for simple possession of a video. Others are directly reporting that the Prime Minister is a thief and reported it on this form. Furthermore, some online have poked fun at the website's first sentence after the registration is complete because they misspelled submission, although I don't know if that's I don't know what.
Is that the article that misspelled submission, or is that the...
No, the New Zealand website.
Okay, well.
But I don't know, even if it's originally in English, sometimes when you go into foreign websites, things get not how they originally were.
Huh, well, I haven't had that experience.
And so the article goes on, how are they going to handle these firearms? The same way they did in Australia. They're going to confiscate and destroy them. Don't look for the New Zealand police to cradle the guns with white gloves and place them on feather-filled lace pillows. That was oddly specific, but okay. The attacks on the website are a public act of civil disobedience by gun owners. I don't know if that counts as civ dis, if you're across the planet. Most of whom are in the United States, judging by the entries above. That's a stretch, but okay.
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like I'm hearing people from the U.S. trolling people who believe that there's somehow... Well, this is the other thing I think about New Zealand. The U.K. had some success getting rid of stopping gun crimes by outlawing weapons. Now, it's an island. It makes it a lot easier to do that. Much harder to outlaw firearms on, say, the North American continent, where there's more guns than there are people. Probably 2 guns for every person. Like, outlawing guns here just means that you have a bunch of illegal guns in America. You're not going to get rid of them. Whereas on New Zealand, where maybe they don't have as many, they've done a better job of tracking them throughout the years and that kind of thing, it's going to be easier to get rid of the guns, whatever it is that they have. Now, when you look at England, for instance, just because they got rid of guns doesn't mean they got rid of violent crime. They didn't stop crime. Violent crime is up in London.
So now you can only defend yourself if you're physically stronger than your attacker,
right.
Which you never are because you don't pick your attacker; they pick you.
Right. That's it's always a difficulty. Sometimes weaker attackers go after stronger attackers, but a gun can change the odds in those circumstances. And that's the thing. That's what you have to look at is here. The old saying is, God made man, Sam Colt made him equal. What you're saying is that some little 100-pound lady can't protect herself anymore against the rapist because you're scared of the guns. That's what you're doing. You're taking guns away from people who may very well need them. And that's sad. It's a tool. The crime is what should be illegal here, not the possession of a weapon. Possessing a weapon does not harm anyone. Using the weapon on somebody, threatening with the weapon or something like that, now we're talking. But if you can't show harm, you can't show crime. And until we learn that, we're just never going to be able to live together. We're just going to keep on incarcerating a bunch of people. Here's the sad truth. It's the sad truth. Whatever gun law you pass is going to be used in a racist fashion, ladies and gentlemen. More people who are ethnically disadvantaged are going to be arrested, charged, and incarcerated for longer for every gun crime you pass. You may hate white men, but those crimes won't be used against them. They'll be used against people who are of other ethnicities. Happens all the time. Take a look at the statistics on felon in possession. Right now, we have a class of people who are disallowed from owning weapons. Take a look and see what the conviction rate is, felon in possession. You will see disproportionately it is black men. It doesn't say that any of those people harmed anyone with that gun. Maybe their son...
If they did, then they would have been charged with that.
Absolutely. Maybe their son was, suspected in something. The cops come through. They search the house. They say, whose gun is this? Dad says, it's mine. And, well, dad's a felon. That's it. Going to jail. That's how these laws work out. Sorry, it's the reality. You don't have to like reality. But you don't get to create a new one out of thin air. Well, we should have a system that's fair. Sorry, that's not how this crap works. Not fair. You taking somebody's gun away that hasn't hurt anybody isn't fair either. Stop with the fair crap. Fair doesn't exist. check your hopes and dreams at the door. This is the Church of the Painful Truth. Free Talk Live.
She's such a beautiful little puppy. I mean, we walk around the block and neighbors always say, her hair is so beautiful.
Healthy and shiny and glossy. DINOVITE.com.
Fatty acids, omega-3s, and omega-6s are great for healthy skin and soft, shiny coats.
I would really recommend people starting their puppies on Dynavite before they get into what I would call the misery index. Bad skin, bad ears, bad breath.
Because if they're getting all their vitamins, micronutrients, microbials from the beginning, then you're not going to run into the problems associated with the allergies, grass, pollen, dust, dirt, fleas, ticks, you name it, and the itching and shedding down the road.
Our vitamins and enzymes replace the nutrients cooked out of most commercial dog foods.
Dynavite for life.
This is Ed Lukasevic
and Cindy Lukasevic,
inviting you and your pets to Dynavite.
859-428-1000.
DINOVITE.com.
Free Talk Live.
Kicking off the third hour of Free Talk Live. If you're listening to Free Talk Live and it's between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern Time, anywhere in the world, any day of the year, you can call in, talk about whatever's on your mind. It's Mark with you.
And Melanie.
The number is 855-450-3733. You can go to discord.freetalklive.com to call in that way. We've been across the board tonight between the Mueller Report, millennials valuing politics over sex, people not being adults till they're 30, New Zealand gun site getting trolled. It's been pretty much everything. Everything's up for debate at this point here on the Monday night edition of Free Talk Live. I've got one that I've been kind of holding here. This is written by somebody who I sort of know professionally. I think it's a great story. Parents are fed up with their school choices. There's a quiet exodus from mass schooling. Parents are fed up as mass schooling becomes more restrictive, more standardized, more far-reaching into a child's young life. Many parents are choosing alternatives. Increasingly, these parents are reclaiming their children's education and are refocusing learning around children, family, and community in several different ways. Love how I throw in this term community. So I was listening to NPR today, and you heard government school teachers on there crying about how students are going to charter schools and getting better educations. Like, seriously. People whose job it is to educate students were crying about how students are going to other places and getting better education. Now, they had stopped calling their stuff public school. They were calling them neighborhood schools.
Okay.
It's not a neighborhood school. I mean, it may be in my neighborhood, but that would be the only thing that would make it a neighborhood school. The idea that your school is forcibly funded through a monopoly and still manages to fail against schools that have to compete for your kid's business, your kid's education. They don't like that competition thing. They were actually complaining about the competition, too.
It's actually really sad. So if I have a product that is zero cost to the consumer, and then there's a competitor that charges you money, and I'm still losing, my product must really suck.
In many cases, these charter schools, the parent doesn't have to pay anything either, so they get like a voucher or something. But the voucher is often a third or a half of what the kid would get what the government school would get for the kid. And don't forget, every kid that goes to the government school is now learning disabled, because basically they've come up with a system for calling every kid learning disabled or whatever and getting them, some kind of aid or something to drive up the cost of an individual kid to the given municipality. These terrible education systems. I mean, where the crappiest school in town is. In 90-something% of the cases, the worst school in a given jurisdiction for a given grade, I'm willing to say 99.9, but that's just me making up a statistic on the spot. I'm certain, I would bet it, that it's 90+% of the worst school in a given jurisdiction for a given age, given grade, is the government school. And they're there crying about funding. The teachers, who are educators by trade, should be delighted that kids are getting a better education, but they're not. It's because a government job takes the joy out of whatever it is that you wanted to do, takes the passion out of it, and turns you into a bureaucrat. That's the evidence I see. The teachers who manage to stay passionate and excited about their job, I applaud them. But ones that say they want kids back who are getting a better education at a charter school, those teachers stink.
And different job benefits are going to attract different people. There's jobs where you can put up with some risk, and if you're awesome, you'll get paid a lot. And then there's jobs where you just have security. And people who are good at what they do not tend to flock to the jobs that offer the most amount of security. That's just not how life works. So
why should we have jobs that offer security if they attract the sort of people that are not passionate about their work, that do not, that are just gonna mail it in? They're gonna put in the least amount of effort possible to stay employed. Do we want those people? I mean,
I don't want it regardless.
Surely there's somewhere that those people could be passionate about their work, and that would be better for them. But offering them,
well, it wouldn't necessarily be better for them, because if you're just like, I want, $1,000 a month, and I can just, pay my bill and not have to care. If that's you, then yeah, that might be what you want. Like, you want that security. Is it good for the products? No.
Well, I think that productivity is the thing that we're looking for here when we're trying to do stuff. And poor productivity in the educational marketplace results in poorly educated kids. I don't think that we as consumers would want that. Let me go on with this. With back-to-school time upon us, this is, like I said, the article's just a little date, more than 2 million U.S. children will be avoiding the school bus altogether in favor of homeschooling, an educational choice that has accelerated in recent years among both liberal and conservative families. While homeschooling for religious freedoms remains an important driver for many families, 2012 data from the National Center for Educational Statistics reveals that the main reason for homeschooling is concern about the environment of other schools. I mean, can you blame a parent for keeping their kid in from a government school? It's likely in their neighborhood it's the only choice that they've got. Well,
it's not the only choice you've got if you live in the U.S. There are some countries where that's the only choice you've got. The U.S. is not one of those countries.
Well, how far do you have to say that a person would have to drive in order for the choice not to
hopefully most of us aren't driving to our living room. So it's not the only choice you got.
Right. I'm saying the only choice you have other than homeschooling. I mean, I just said homeschooling. There's any surprise they pick homeschooling when a government school is the only choice.
It's the only other choice. I mean, yeah, you could still do one of those online academies that they have.
That is homeschooling.
That's debatable.
It's at home.
Yeah, but you're not teaching them yourself. There's somebody else's curriculum.
Sure.
They take these other no.
Well, if you're staying,
it's preferable than public school or even than quote private schools. But
if a parent stays home with a kid, then as far as I'm concerned, it's homeschooling. That's the broader category of homeschooling. There's lots of different ways to do homeschooling. You don't need to be a college professor to do it. Basically, the curriculum's
most
there.
Of the teachers aren't college professors anyway. Are qualified to be, at least.
Yeah, a lot of them have masters, but even if they've got a bachelor's, a lot of people do not feel qualified. They've been told their whole lives that there's this curriculum called early childhood education, and that somehow this is magic. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not magic.
In my one of my psychology classes, there were 2 or 3 people who were taking who were education majors.
Yeah.
And the curriculum for the education majors, so like I would have to take, biology and either physics or chemistry, and then I'd have to take history.
And for what degree was this?
This was for accounting.
Accounting? You needed biology for accounting, all right?
Yes. But for them, they had math for education majors, science for education majors, and one of them was like asking me for help for her classes, and she was just like really not with it. But then, which was bad enough, right? Like, you're in a lower level undergrad class struggling. That's concerning about you as a human being. But then she would show me the stuff that she was having to do, and it's like, okay, so we have to, take algebra and algebra 2. She was like adding fractions. I'm like, and this is the equivalent class in the like, this is what counts for algebra 2 for you. Like,
I was
this
amazed.
Is ridiculous.
In high school, they had an AP calculus class, right? So you could get college credit for taking the calculus class in high school. But how many college students who pay for a college class are actually ending up in calc? I mean, the engineers are, but very few others are going to take a calc class. Why does it have to be up to that? Why not the algebra class? Why not the algebra 2 class? Why not the geometry class? All of these are college-level classes, but they don't give you that credit. 855-450-3733. Am I too hard on the United States educational system? 855-450. Free as in freedom. Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live. It's the live Monday night edition. It's Mark with you.
And Melanie.
You can give us a call here at 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE. Reading an article about how homeschooling and charter schooling are increasing here in the United States. But let's go to your phone calls. Doug calling in from Illinois. Doug, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I want to let you know about an issue happening here in Illinois that, being a libertarian program, I thought that it should be covered a little bit more.
Okay.
We had a 4-year-old girl having a birthday here in Chicago.
All right.
And Chicago PD
Chicago
broke down
City,
the door.
Okay.
Yeah, and they ended up doing a wrong raid again. According to WBBM TV here in Chicago, it will be the 12th raid that they're aware of. Only that they're aware of. They can't get Chicago PD to hand over the documentation about how often they've actually had it happening within an 18-month period. They're continually doing it all the time. They're getting the wrong property, and they're doing property damage. They're frightening the hell out of everybody, And according to the mother, they held the child at gunpoint. They had her at gunpoint. They were dropping the F-bomb all over in front of a 4-year-old.
I hate that. I really do. Law enforcement agents of the United States, we pay you well enough that you can watch your friggin' mouth. Hey, these are the people that pay your paychecks, whether they have to or not. You don't come out of your mouth like that if you think you're a professional. You are a law enforcement professional because you get paid. You can save that potty mouth stuff for the bar afterwards.
Evidently, they told her. Evidently, she told the one cop, I'd like to look at the warrant. And they told her, F you, we're going to haul you off to jail too. And they got her cuffed, and they pretty much threatened her.
Yeah, the idea that they walk into a house without showing somebody a warrant. When they did the raid on Free Talk Live Studios 3 years ago here, the FBI, in conjunction with state and local law enforcement officials, they showed that warrant before they walked in the door. They showed it to everybody. I came into the studio while they were here and searching. I had the warrant presented to me at the door. They weren't going to let me in. I said, this is my place of business. You can't keep me out. Go ahead and shoot me. We'll be talking about it tonight on the radio.
I mean, the thing could be that they're getting the wrong property. They're damaging the hell out of property.
Well, if you do enough raids, Doug, you're going to get the wrong property, right? I mean, that's really a problem with too many raids.
I mean, it's a problem with reading addresses.
It can be a violation of the Fourth Amendment. I mean, if you're not getting – look, if you're not sure that you're getting the right property, then you don't need to be doing the raid. And if you get the wrong property – There should be accountability. You know what I mean?
There should be some kind of accountability. What kind of accountability would you suggest?
Maybe deduct the money from the pension of the guy in charge, of the commander, and put that money toward repairing the property and paying the family back that had the wrong raid happen. I assure you that if that should happen, they'll make sure that they get it right every time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of pension funds there. You probably should delve into all of them because there'll be some big costs when there's a pool from which to draw funds. You can believe the lawsuits will begin rolling in. So I think people should be responsible for their actions. When police officers are responsible for the mistakes they make, then they're likely to make fewer mistakes. That's kind of how we do it here in America and around the world. Is you're responsible for the mistakes you make. Oh, unless you work for the government.
We are dealing with a tyrannical entity, and people really need to wake the hell up. We have authority without accountability. And, part of the problem can be that, you have it happen in an area where you don't live in and you don't really give a damn. Well, it will eventually happen. We're having it happen here more and more and more here in Illinois, and it will eventually make it out further out of Illinois,
Yep. If you say, well, it doesn't really matter because it's happening in Chicago, or it doesn't really matter because it's happening to a family that's not like my family, or you say any of those things, don't expect anybody to feel bad for you when it happens to you. Ultimately,
by the way,
this is just the training ground. It keeps coming. There's 80,000 raids in America every year, and many of those are on the wrong residents.
Yeah, whoever you don't like, they're going to run out of them,
yes.
And then they're not going to stop doing raids. They're just going to move on to the next group, which is kind of what happened in St. Tammany, but that's how it works.
In conjunction with that, with what happened, we had a off-duty cop killed here in Chicago, and they found the people that did it right away. When the majority of the people who get shot in Chicago, they never find the perpetrator.
Yeah.
They never find the guy doing the shooting. But man, a cop, even if it should be an off-duty cop, that they're able to, they worked overtime to catch the people that did it. They're able to do that right away.
Well, yeah, cops don't really do investigations.
Yeah,
what about a detective? That should be.
Well, that was the hard realization that I got in high school when I had my motorcycle stolen. Like my dad went around drove the neighborhood later on that next day, found my motorcycle in somebody's backyard, and we reported it and got it back. But the police weren't going to do that. Now, I'm not saying on a property crime that they necessarily should, but I believed up to that point. For the 16 years that I had been on the planet, I believed that police officers handled law enforcement and investigation. This is what I'd seen on TV.
Like go to crime scenes with cameras and
propaganda. Right? They take fingerprints and find out who did it. Come on, this stuff doesn't happen. They don't do investigations generally. But when it's one of their own, Doug's right. That's when the investigation machine will really kick in.
And then maybe for theft and other petty crimes, maybe that shouldn't be a free subsidized service, but then get out of the way and quit pretending like you're the one in charge.
Right, I had no idea. I mean, if somebody would have said, you know what you should do, son? You should get on your bicycle and you should ride around this neighborhood, and I'll bet you'll find your motorcycle. It probably didn't go very far.
We've had children killed in Chicago. We've had children, I'm sure that you've heard about it. We're like the murder capital of the region. And they would never put in the type of effort to find the murderer of a child like they put in to find the murderer of that off-duty cop.
A good friend of mine runs from Chicago, runs a golf course here in New Hampshire. He had sponsored a kid from elementary school and middle school and into high school. The kid was doing great. He was getting great grades and all that stuff. Something happens on the way home. The kid ends up from school at some point. The kid ends up dead. And the guy just sort of loses any hope he had for Chicago and Chicagoland. And, that's how it goes. I mean, Chicago may be the greatest city in America, and I really do believe that. Now, I believe it was built on hard work. I believe that as far as Chicago, it's got this wonderful history. But so much is wrong with that place. And, by the way, some of the best food around. But
see, there's an inverse correlation between human rights and food quality. So if they have good food, then it must be a horrible place.
Oh.
And I have yet to been proven wrong on that. But yeah, I mean, just the fact that you can't have guns, they're not the best place.
I hate it. I feel like I'm living in a tyrannical government. They take more and more of my money every year. I'm pretty much renting my property.
Yep.
You have everything out of control. We're now publicly funding abortion here in Illinois, through Medicaid. They're allowing, like low-income women, and we all have to pay for it. If a woman would like to have an abortion, fine, but don't take the money out of my paycheck to pay for it. And all the other crap that I'm tired of here in Cook County and Illinois and Chicago.
I mean, is there a reason you can't
It's time to put the house up for sale.
Yep, I am.
Thanks for the call, Doug.
Thank you.
855-450-3733. 855-450-FREE. Free Talk Live.
Does your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy? Come to Dynavite for help. Order a 90-day supply of Dynavite. Pick up 2 bottles of Lico Chops, get the 3rd bottle free. New improved Lico Chops with omega-6, omega-3, vitamin E, and now 6 extra direct-fed microbials. Even better for the digestive tract and immune system. And dogs love it. Try Lico Chops. Buy 2, get 1 free. This is Henry Lukasevic for Dynavite.
DINOVITE.com.
Talk Live. You can call in, talk about whatever's on your mind. It's Mark with you.
And Melanie.
The number's 855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE. I want to get back into this article here from intellectualtakeout.org about more kids going to charter schools and homeschools than ever before. Beyond homeschooling, an additional 2 million children, by the way, it's 2 million kids homeschooling now, 2 million kids being educated this semester, this fall semester in charter schools, according to the recent U.S. Department of Education data. The number of students currently enrolled in charter schools increased from 0.9 million in 2004 to 2.7 million in 2014, while the number of children enrolled in traditional public schools declined by 0.4 million during that same period. Taxpayer funded but administered by predominantly private educational organizations, charter schools allow parents flexibility in choosing a school that is better aligned with their expectation and their child's needs. Charter schools are often exempt from district policies and collective bargaining agreements that can halt innovation and experimentation, allowing them more instructional and organizational freedom. Demand for charter schools often outweighs current supply, with statewide charter caps, admission lotteries, and long waiting lists, leaving parents discouraged and angry. So when you look at these charter schools, they've got so many different types of them. You'll see the arts and sciences charter school. You'll see the the ballet charter school. Charter schools for everything. And kids almost across the board are getting better educations in these charter schools than they are getting in regular government school. That can't be because the charter schools are all doing it better, because they're all doing something different. So either A, individual kids need different types of education and somehow parents can figure that out. It's a possibility, certainly. Or B, government schools are the worst environment to learn anything. That they're dangerous and scary and institutional and run by people who don't care. That, I think, is also a distinct possibility. That basically any educational choice you can make that isn't a government school is the best educational choice you can make for your kid. Now, maybe you're an atheist and the closest school to your house is a Catholic school or something. Lots of Catholic schools out there. I actually went from kindergarten through 8th grade to a Dutch Reform school, but you'd never know that because the Dutch Reform never taught. They just call their schools Christian. They don't use any other terminology. But turns out that that's the ministry of the Dutch Reformed churches to open up these schools, and I maybe that's not what you want to do. There's still homeschooling as an option, people. It's still, my wife stayed home from, the last time she worked at a W-2 type job, she worked before my son was born and hasn't had a, punch a clock kind of job since then. She's worked for Free Talk Live. She's done a little bit of contracting work here and there, but just stuff she can do from the house on the computer. And that's it. Well, because she did that, because she could concentrate on the household and take care of the finances that way, she was still able to contribute in a way that we would have never been able to do had she been working 40 plus hours a week out of the house. I credit her with having paid the house off. We did that in, I think, 3 years. She did that. We had to build the house on credit cards. We built that house and built it on credit cards, and she paid it off on a middle class income, mine. And that's because she was cooking all the meals at home. I didn't have to pay all that money for, stuff to wear to work. Didn't have to have the extra car. Didn't have to do all these other things. And if somebody stays home, they can truly make it make sense. Let's go to the phones here. We have David calling in from New Mexico. David, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, I wrote in the call screener asked me what it's about. It says this thing of ours, or in Latin, Italian, La Cosa Nostra.
The mafia?
The mafia.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's exactly the same business plan. Your government and the mafia are exactly the same thing.
That's not true. The mafia provides some services, according to what people who have lived under the mafia have told me.
So which services are we talking about? I mean, they run numbers. Well, the government has a lot of
security, but like actual security, not just indiscriminately shooting people under the guise of security.
I don't think.
I believe they also sell some drugs that are the drugs that they say they are. And
you've turned
run casinos.
When you've turned the corner to defending the mafia, Melanie, that's when you've gone the step too far. I gotta say,
I'm not defending the mafia. I'm just saying there's a difference between an evil organization that has some products and an evil organization that only blows up people.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah. So yeah. Point taken. And to a degree, I to a fair degree, I agree. You're talking about the education thing as being ineffective, to corrupt, somewhere on that scale. And then you were also talking about, what was the other thing you were discussing just in the last, because it's tied in, the cops, because that's tied in too. Cops out there, they're individually, one by one, there are guys and gals in there that are, you have the right thing in your heart. However, you're being used, whether you know it or not. Your force has been built as the enforcer, just like the mob has enforcers. You're the enforcer for the boss, that is our government, whether you know it or not. And I want you to know it, so you stop doing it. Stop being a tool for them as an enforcer. And
well, in a lot of cases, police understand that they're a gang. I mean, they'll say it. It's been caught on video over and over again.
They ran an ad in one jurisdiction that said, "Think you're in a big gang? Our gang is bigger than you. We have 20,000 members or whatever."
Yeah, something like that. I remember the police union in, I think it was Denver during, I think it was a Democratic National Convention in maybe 2012. Their motto was, "We get up early to beat the crowds."
Right. So anyway, you need to educate those cops that they're being used, because there are some of them that don't know they're being used as a tool.
Yeah. There's lots of good people in the police. Lots of good teachers too.
I don't see how that's possible. So then all that really means is that I'm not the person to do that, because I don't see how you don't know. Like, what a cop is. You lived here before you became a cop. I don't know how you don't know what a cop is, so I don't know what it is I need to explain to you.
Right. Well, maybe somebody else who does understand it can explain that to me.
Probably a good idea.
That's probably not the thing for me to do, honestly. And I mean, I'm not trying to be smart about it, but different people are good at different things.
We
and
all have our roles,
fail hard at that.
You can be busy trying to explain to people how the mafia has more use than the government.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that Melanie take on the whole task. I'm talking to anybody and everybody who's listening. But anyway, they're the enforcer for your government, which is a racket. And in your schools, you're talking about whether people should be educating at home, or what you should be doing is you should be boycotting all government education, and because the educational institutions have been used not to educate so that there are skilled doctors, lawyers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They've been used in order to sort out as a sifting system, to find those that are willing to join the mob and to play by the mob rules, the government mob rules. That's what they're doing. That's why, like this Singer case, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Singer?
Singer, the dude that has for decades
Right.
Rick Singer.
Yeah, the guy that's setting it up so rich people can go to rich people colleges.
Yeah, so that they can go to colleges to get the degree and to be ruled in instead of ruled out, to be one of the power elite. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah,
That's
I didn't know that was a secret. That was the surprising part of this case to me.
Yeah, that was the amazing part of that case to me, too, is that anybody was surprised that somehow rich people have a fast track for getting into places like Harvard and Yale. Thanks for the call, David. Appreciate it.
People.
I got to let you go. 855-450-3733. By the way, Tom Woods, great libertarian podcaster, he went to Harvard and doesn't seem to have, opened the doors necessarily for him. So you also got to believe the right things. Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live, final segment. Want to give special thanks to our amplifiers who make Free Talk Live possible. If you go to amp.freetalklive.com, like Juggalo Joe did, who became a silver amplifier there, you can support Free Talk Live. We only use the money to advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live. There are some perks. There's some good reasons to be an amplifier, but I think the best reason is you support the ideas of liberty, and you think that Free Talk Live is a good avenue for spreading them. At $5 a month, I don't think your Liberty dollar can go any further than the AMP program. amp.freetalklive.com. Excuse me, amp.freetalklive.com. Thank you to the amplifiers. Thank you to Juggalo Joe. Let's go to John calling in from Kentucky. John, you're on Free Talk Live. John.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Yes, I'm here.
Gotcha.
Hey, guys, just want to let you know I'm in a kind of a rural, remote area, so I may lose you. I'm driving currently. Had a couple of comments. First was about the charter schools. You had some comments about, schools being crap and public school system kind of being, I guess, shady, and lack of a better term. And I've been out of school for about 25 years, and I've got teenage children, and it really blows my mind every day, the stuff that they come home and tell me about it. Teachers making comments about certain things. And at a recent class reunion, I was talking with some of my other classmates that have children the same age. When we were in school, we never knew the political affiliation, religious affiliation, sexual orientation, or anything of any of our teachers.
Nope.
We always had speculations about certain
I'm the
teachers,
same
about
age
which
as
way
you
they
are,
were.
and I would agree with you 100%. I didn't know any of that stuff.
And every damn week, when my kids come home with something, it's something about this teacher's an atheist, or this teacher thinks Trump's stupid, or this teacher thinks Hillary Clinton's a cow, or, I get tired of my kids hearing that crap at school. They should go to school, get an education, not to listen to somebody's personal ideology or who they went out with on the weekend or who they were drinking beer with. That's none of my kids' business.
Yeah, when I was in third grade, I knew that my teacher got mono.
Yeah,
and I know how she got it because she told us.
And it seems like it's every week that a school teacher, you see it on TV where they've done something stupid on Twitter, or they're sleeping with a student, or something like that. And I think that's been a big decline, or a big reason for the decline in our school systems, and especially our public school systems, and why they have such problems in keeping students and losing students to homeschooling and private schools and things like that. Yeah,
it's no surprise though that you get this place where you've got these kids that are forced to be there all day long, and these people come in with their ideologies or whatever, and they want to spread it. Well, I mean, that's kind of the definition of what a teacher is a person who knows something, who wants to impart that information. I'm not saying I support it. I absolutely don't. And I tend to agree with you. But, I mean, it's just kind of the probable, almost certain future of a centralized government education system. I mean,
right. Second thing I wanted to speak about was a caller, a couple callers ago was talking about police officers. I'm actually a police officer. I've called and talked to you guys once or twice before.
Thank you, John.
And couple of comments about what he had to say, and this is nothing against him or anything, but there are those of us out here. I actually work for a county sheriff, and there are those of us out here that know what our oath was and know that there are certain things about our job that we don't agree with. And I will say that I've been a quiet 3%er for about the last 10 to 12 years. And my ideology about my job and how I approach my job changed quite a bit after I spent a week in New Orleans in 2005 after Hurricane Katrina.
Was that when they were confiscating all the guns?
Yep, and saw some of the stuff that federal agencies were doing to citizens. That really gave me a good wake up call. And at that point, I was glad that we were leaving. After seeing some of the things that were going on, our supervision and management decided that we needed to go home. And I've been proud to say for the last 20 years that I've worked for county sheriffs, and I have chosen to work for county sheriffs just because of the nature of their statutory powers, and basically because they're constitutional office, and the way our office is set up as a sheriff. I have chosen not to be a part of a state police agency or a city police agency just because of the fact that they're just basically a contract. That's why they're there. But I will say that
I'm glad you've been thinking about this, John. Yeah.
As far as what that gentleman had to say about officers being gangsters and stuff like that, there are those of us out there that know what civil liberties are. And as far as that's concerned, I do keep a copy of Pocket Constitution above my visor in my vehicle, just so, number one, I don't forget it, and number two, if anybody ever challenges anything, I can show it to them. And
Got
say,
it right there.
If it's not laid out right there, then we do have a problem.
Thank you, John. Appreciate the call.
But I just wanted to add a few comments and tell you guys that I like listening to you guys, and keep up good work. I really appreciate y'all getting the message out there and making sure everybody understands what their liberties are and everything like that, because that kind of goes back to the schools, because I try to burn that in my kids' head, because they are definitely not getting that at school on what their rights are and what they do have to do and what they don't have to do as a citizen.
Thanks for the call, John.
So, all right, thanks, guys.
Let's go to the Discord lines. Got Gene, the Christian anarchist, calling in on Discord. Gene, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, quickly, I just got out of a meeting with the group here, a Liberty group in Memphis, and they had a gal speaking from, she's a Falun Gong person from China. And
is that's some kind of religion that's outlawed by the Chinese government, right?
Yeah, it's basically just a meditation kind of thing and some basic rules to live by.
Yeah.
But
that's
the
kind of what
Chinese
religion
government found that there was more of them than there were Chinese Communist Party members, so they made it illegal.
Okay.
She went to prison and was tortured and all this stuff. But the point I'm trying to make is, after being to China all those times, I recognize that what she says is very realistic. I mean, this is what a oppressive government will do to people, and the torture that she described was just horrendous. And I can only say that the thing that's keeping us from not being there is the private ownership of firearms, and we must never, ever give up this right.
You think that's the firearms that are keeping us free? Because I've always wondered about this.
I'm 100% sure of that, because the only thing that stops the goons from gooning us all more than they are is the fact that they might get gooned back.
Yeah, so
they don't want.
Even if we wouldn't win that war, they don't want to get shot at, because an individual cop still knows he can die from bullets.
Gene, the audio's bad. I'm going to let you go. Thank you.
An individual cop still knows he can die from bullets, even if he thinks he can win the war. So that is still a deterrence. If there's going to be a war and you're going to be a frontline soldier, you're more hesitant to do that if it's an actual war and not just walk in.
Okay. I want to believe that the Second Amendment is what secures all the rest of them. I really do.
Well, the Second Amendment is just, a statement. It's the fact that the guns are actually there in reality that is what secures anything.
I just don't see I see that this nation has become less free over time, and generally a Second Amendment person will not disagree with me on that statement, and that those that believe in the Second Amendment and have guns do nothing about it step by step and time after time.
I think there's a point, though.
Yeah, there may be a point. And I think it's the boiling frog. It's the boiling frog thing.
So they can't do it all at once.
I'll give you that. Like they just can't crank it all the way up as quickly as they would like to because, well, the frog is at least armed. If he's not cognizant, if he's not aware, if he's not paying attention, at least he's armed, I guess. I don't know. I've been skeptical of this. I'm skeptical of a lot of things when it comes around to people and their claims around guns. But I get it. One thing's for certain: you want to have one if somebody tries to break in your house, and you want to be able to defend yourself. I mean, look at things in Great Britain. They're trying. Somebody suggested, one of their government bureaucrats suggested putting tracking chips on all the knives. I mean, how would that work?
It would work that you have a whole bunch of knives with holes in them.
Yeah.
And just a pile of tracking chips in my kitchen drawer.
It's been Free Talk Live. It's Mark with you.
And Melanie.
You can check us out at freetalklive.com. Check out our Telegram channel. You can see all our show prep there. It's telegram.freetalklive.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.